what have I done? I have made some polls. That's what I've done. I'm going to go through them. I'm going to show you what you guys think, or gals, or I don't know, whoever's out there, right? I'm going to show you what you have voted, or maybe you haven't participated in a poll and you're just watching this and you're like, what are these guys thinking? I'm going to go through them and kind of show you the most popular options, and I'm going to tell you what my option is. So what's your favorite All-Star Game event out of these four? You guys, or maybe I shouldn't say that, the majority, I'm just going to say you guys because I'll probably just keep saying it and forget. But I'll say it right now. The majority thinks the hardest shot is the best All-Star Game event. I should have said Super Skills Competition event or whatever it's called. Whatever. It's part of the All-Star Game. Hardest shot is the most popular. My personal favorite is fastest skater, actually. That's the thing that's been more tailored to my skill set. I was always a speedy guy when I played hockey, and so that's what I think is the coolest. To be the fastest is to be the coolest. I don't know. Not always. When I watch the NHL, I don't necessarily think the fastest guy is the coolest guy, but I just think it's an awesome thing to be fast. Fast is awesome. If you're not fast, you're last. Not necessarily, but I love the fastest skater. I always think it's really cool to see who the fastest guys are, and that's really, I guess, the skill that I respect most. I don't know, probably not, but it's in terms of the super skills competition, it's the one that I like to watch the most. I just love it. My favorite thing in the Olympics is always, well, I do like hockey. I do like watching hockey in the Olympics, but in the Summer Olympics, I love the track and field, especially the sprints. The sprinting races are my favorite, and so fastest skater is kind of the NHL's version of that, and so for me, that's my favorite event by far. So yeah, let's keep going. The final three. Oh yeah, I did some NHL video game polls, and these are the three that kind of won that. I've actually only played one of them. I've only played NHL. I guess I played a demo for NHL 10. I wasn't a big fan of the demo of NHL 10 because they introduced that like first-person fighting. I personally was not a fan of that. Other than that, I can't really tell you much about NHL 10. Apparently, people love it. So yeah, it was back in the day when EA was still making decently good games. I figured NHL 14 would be the winner of the whole thing. It does seem to be the most popular, and most people think it's the last really good game of the EA NHL franchise. And you know what? Like, I wish I had played it. I would probably have agreed if I had played it, but I kind of missed out on that one. And then NHL 2003, I mean, I played that a lot. I love NHL 2003. It's not my all-time favorite, but it's up there with my all-time favorites. NHL 2003 was awesome, and I like that it's tied. NHL 3 was down a bit before this, and it's kind of come up to tie it. But I don't think there's any catching NHL 14. I think NHL 14 is kind of the official winner of my polls. My EA NHL poll. It wasn't even EA NHL. I had 2K games in there. I had NHL Hits games as well. So there was a little bit more. I didn't have NHL Slapshot. I saw someone mention that, but I didn't know where to fit it in. It was just like, it was kind of a good structure of like, there was 4, there's 4, there's 4, there's 4, there's 4. There was one where 2K had 3, and so maybe I could have put it in there. But it's kind of a miscellaneous game. But anyway, NHL Slapshot I don't think would have beat NHL 14 anyway. So I could be wrong. Maybe I should have done that. But I don't think it would have. But yeah, I love NHL 2003. That's the one where you could put glasses on your players. They could wear glasses. I remember. I think it was because Ron Tugnut, in his kind of headshot picture in NHL 2003, he was wearing glasses. So I think they put glasses on him, and I don't know if he ever wore glasses in a game. Maybe he did, but like underneath his goalie mask, maybe he wore glasses. I don't know, but he was wearing glasses in the picture, and so I was always like, I wonder if that's why they added glasses to your creative player. So you could have this visorless. I'm pretty sure you could have this visorless guy in NHL 2003, and he would just be wearing glasses, and it'd be like, oh, all right. Who is the Tampa Bay Lightning's best player in their franchise's history? Most people think Steven Stamkos. Makes sense, makes a lot of sense. He leads a lot of the categories, I believe, in the stats, and he's been their captain, their leader for a long time. He did miss out on a lot of their first Stanley Cup run. I forget how much he was around for the second one. I believe he was there the whole time, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, I could see why Stamkos would win this. A lot of people were saying Le Cavalier, but I only have, the thing with these polls, I only have 5 options, and with the picture polls, I only have 4 options, and so I just don't think that I would have Vinny Le Cavalier in my top 5 if I was ranking the Tampa Bay Lightning's best players. I would have him probably at 6th or 7th if I was doing that. I'm not sure where to put Braden Point. Do I put him ahead of Le Cavalier? Do I not? Not sure. But yeah, personally, the first thing that comes to my mind is Martin St. Louis. He just, franchise-wise, he was like their biggest guy back in the day. He won multiple MVPs. I'm pretty sure he won two Art Rosses. I could be wrong on that, but and maybe that wasn't multiple MVPs. I didn't look a lot of this stuff up. Maybe I should. Let me look it up. Let me look it up quick. But yeah, in my mind, Martin St. Louis is their franchise-wise their best player. But obviously things are changing. St. Louis does not also have 2 Stanley Cups like the rest of the people on the list. He only has 1. 2 Art Ross trophies, 1 Hart trophy, 1 Pearson trophy, 3 Lady Byng trophies. So he did not win the Hart in that shortened season when he did win the Art Ross, 2013, right? He didn't win then. So, but still, like, I look at him and I'm like, man, he could be. There are a lot of good arguments for Kucherov too. I think I lean still towards St. Louis, but I would probably be between those two. I don't know. Victor Hedman, obviously, he shouldn't have 3%. Victor Hedman is amazing. I don't know. That's a tough one. That's definitely a tough one. But I think I would probably still go with Marty St. Louis, at this point, at least. But I do understand the Stamkos votes and the Kucherov argument, and even all the other votes for Vasi and for Hedman. I can see why Hedman's not winning this, but at the same time, Hedman is, I don't even know. He's just so amazing, and you could argue Hedman above Kucherov and Stamkos, I think, as well. So, and above St. Louis probably too. You could probably make some good arguments, but for me, I lean more toward St. Louis at this point. Classiest NHL player, classiest of all time. This one is very hurt by, I think, recency bias in a lot of ways. There's Joe, which a lot of these polls are, but there's Joe Sakic and there's Sil Apps. I think it's between those two. Obviously, there's so many classy players. People brought up Marian Hossa, Steve Yzerman, Bobby Orr, even Wayne Gretzky himself. Like, there's so many guys that you can put on here. I put Iginla because he's the person that really comes to mind. He's just like this classy, nice guy, and he fights hard, but he's, you know, one of the most classy, nice guys off the ice that there could ever be, even on the ice. Carey Price, classy as well. I had that really amazing moment with that kid in the picture there. But yeah, for me, it's between Joe Sakic and Sil Apps for sure. Joe Sakic, of course, handing the cup off to Ray Bourque is the epitome of Joe Sakic is classy. But yeah, I would have to go with Sil Apps too. He, back in the day, if you don't know, he was paid, you know, obviously his salary, a certain amount, but he felt like he did not live up to it, so he paid $1,000 out of, I believe it was $6,000 that he got paid, because back then that was a big deal. but he got, yeah, so he got 6,000, and then he paid back 1,000 of that because he didn't feel worthy of 6,000. He didn't feel like that he should be given that. So he paid the GM and owner at the time, Conn Smythe, back $1,000. He wrote a check for $1,000 back to him because he didn't feel like he deserved 6,000. I just think that's pretty crazy. I think that's pretty classy. Just shows his character guy. I would go with Sillaps. That's where I would vote. I can't vote on any of these, by the way. I mean, I could go to another account and vote on them. I haven't, but I felt like that would be kind of lame, so I didn't do that. But I could, I guess, go to my other account or whatever and do that. I don't know. I'm not gonna do that. Sillaps, though, he would have my vote if I was voting on these. But yeah. Best NHLer of the latest Hockey Hall of Fame player inductees. That one, I think I'd put it between Luongo and Henrik, because I feel like Henrik is the better Sedin. Obviously, as close as can be, they're twins. Henrik and Daniel being better than the other is like, what even is that? If I had to give a better Sedin award, I would give it to Henrik. I feel like leadership-wise, he's the main guy. Playmaker-wise, he's the main guy. Daniel's more the shooter, but I think overall I would give it to Henrik as the better player. But again, I'm glad they got to stay together on the same team their whole career. I think that's amazing. I think it's so cool. There's a reason Henrik has more votes than Daniel. I don't know, though. Like, would I give it to Henrik or would I give it to Roberto Luongo? You know, Luongo just had so many amazing seasons and was genuinely like unreal, like especially on Florida. His team 16 points out of the playoffs, like no chance of the playoffs, and he's still putting up a .931 save percentage in 72 games, I believe it was. It was just crazy. It's crazy what Luongo can do. It's crazy Luongo at his best. Of course, none of these guys have a Stanley Cup, so you can't really weigh that in. But I think I would agree with this one. I think I would give it to Luongo over Henrik, but that's, again, just... It's close, I think. It's close. Alfie, I don't know. Alfie, I think sometimes he was overrated, and so I kind of underrated him. I don't know how to rightly rate Daniel Alfredsson, but I don't have him above the Sedins, and I don't have him above Luongo, personally. I mean... It could change, obviously. Maybe I'll look at more stats someday, but no, I don't generally have Alfredsson above those guys. I feel like, again, back in the day, or back in whenever he was, you know, winding his career up, I feel like he was really overrated, and his career was really overrated. But I think because of that, I think he has been underrated lately, and so I do think he does deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Does he deserve to be in there before people like Roenick? No, I don't think so, but... Or McGillney? No. But, again, does he deserve to be there in general? I think so. But yeah, again, where's McGillney? Why is McGillney not in the Hall of Fame? Anyway. Oh, and here we are, NHL game polls. Yeah, these guys are... They'll come up. I'll address them on different things, but not much. Which bird mascot is the NHL's best? Wild Wing, I agree. Obviously, Tommy Hawk and Iceberg are both amazing. Even Slapshot is a really good mascot. But Wild Wing, yeah, you can't argue with Wild Wing, really. I mean, you can, but I won't. I agree. I think Wild Wing is a good choice. Which division does your favorite NHL team play in? My favorite NHL team plays in the Pacific Division, which is the Vancouver Canucks. I love the Canucks. It's hard times for the Canucks. I bring that up every time I mention the Canucks because it hurts. But yeah, anyway, yeah, Canucks are definitely in the Pacific Division, so I would put my vote on the Pacific Division. I get why the Atlantic has the most votes. Obviously, the Maple Leafs are there, Montreal Canadiens are there, Boston Bruins are there. There's just a lot of really huge fan bases, and the biggest one of all, which I believe is the Maple Leafs, is there, so that makes sense. I mean, the Rangers are a big fan base. They're in the Metro, but... Yeah, when you have Montreal and Toronto in the same division, I can see why that gets the most votes. Central is not getting a lot of votes, but, I mean, it also depends on who the 2,000 people are that are paying attention, or not paying attention, who the 2,000 people are that are voting on this poll. Who is the ultimate GOAT of the Big Four, the ultimate greatest of all time? I put Babe Ruth on this poll because I always heard about it being Babe Ruth. People do say Barry Bonds. I don't know about Barry Bonds, but I'm also not a baseball fan, like, at all. So don't even judge my opinion on baseball, really. Like, it's pretty poor. All I remember about Barry Bonds, though, is hearing about all the steroid stuff. So I don't really know. My argument is don't quote me for baseball because I barely watch it. The only time I ever watch baseball is if the St. Louis Cardinals are in the World Series, and man, that was an awesome World Series that I watched the one time. It was only one time that I actually watched it, but I was into it. 2011, that was fun. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, baseball, not really my thing. Basketball, also not really my thing that much. I played some of the NBA games, but I didn't really watch that much. I watched when the Raptors won, and I watched when the Dallas Mavericks won. I don't know. I watched when the Cavs won because I like the Cavs, but no, I don't know. I don't know about basketball. I mostly watch football or hockey, but even football I don't watch as much because ever since moving out, I don't have like satellite or anything, and I know I could get around that, but I just have, like, what is it up here in Canada, Sportsnet Now. Not a huge fan of it, but that's what you get up here is Sportsnet Now. So that's what I have. That's really all I have for TV is Sportsnet Now. So yeah, and some streaming services, just a couple of them. But yeah, I would agree. Wayne Gretzky, that's what I would say. I know there's some good arguments out there for these other ones. Obviously, this is a hockey thing. This is super biased. Obviously, I would say Wayne Gretzky because I'm a hockey fan. But I do really think he's like just so much more dominant. Like all these comments on here, let's see some of them. Like, am I gonna mess everything up here? Oh, maybe not. I'm so proud of y'all. Yeah, I mean it's good. But yeah, I don't know. I just I'm trying to read this and talk at the same time. Yeah, anyway. But even this one, like, Wayne has records that will never be broken. Sure, I mean one will be soon. Gretzky was another level, untouchable. Everybody disputes Brady, Jordan, or Ruth. Everyone disputes that they're the GOAT. I've never heard anyone dispute Gretzky. I've heard a lot of people dispute Gretzky, but I still think that he is, like, so far ahead of everyone else, especially when you look at points. Especially when you think of assists. Like, he has more assists than anyone else has points at all. Like, that's crazy. Like, that's crazy. And obviously Lemieux would have more of a say if he had played longer, and that's where the Lemieux thing comes in. But I still say Gretzky. I just don't think there's much of an argument. I mean, yeah, there's the what ifs. What if Lemieux played longer? But Gretzky is still the greatest of all time. I know he doesn't say it, which shows his humility, which is awesome too. That's another thing. He's like, he's so good. He's so humble. Or I don't know. But yeah, like, he was a good player. He doesn't think he's the best. I think he's the best. I don't care what he says. Of course he's not going to say he's the best. So yeah, there's that. There are people that dispute Gretzky, even if Tyler Hudson has not heard of them. But honestly, I don't think there should be a dispute. I think Gretzky should be far and away the greatest of all time, and I will stick to that. But yeah, oh, there's lots of stuff on here. Oh yeah, I did. Okay, I gotta go back now. Let's see. Oh man, scroll down, scroll down. Maybe I'll cut some of this, or maybe I won't. Maybe I won't. I'm not cutting anything. This is the video. The video. So, which 2020's EA NHL game is the least bad? I've only played one of them. I only have played NHL 22, and I don't like it very much. Maybe I would choose NHL 22. I probably just would not vote if I had seen this. I just wanted to see what people said. And it looks like recency bias, looks like NHL 23, and it might be the best. I don't know. Some people think it's worse. Some people think it's better than NHL 20 and 21. I honestly don't know. It seems like it should be better, right? It should be, but who knows? EA is EA, so, right? Who knows? Out of these, I only had 18 and 19, and they were okay, I guess, but obviously they were just such a step down in a lot of ways that it didn't really matter whether they were okay or not, right? It's just, I don't like them that much. I never played these to 16, 17, never played those. Never played 15, never played 14. That one I wanted to play. I don't have my PS3 anymore, so I haven't played it. But I went to college in 2013, and so I never played like 14, 15, 16, 17. And then by the time I did 19, I was like, I'm done. These games are not very good anymore. They're not really worth buying. And then I went and bought 22 eventually. But but even then, it's like not a great game. Not very impressed. And so I haven't really played anything really good since, 12 and 13. Uh, I wish I had played 14. And I get why people are saying it's the best. It had a really awesome kind of franchise. No, not franchise mode. It was like Be a Pro. Maybe it was still called Be a Pro, but it was kind of like a live the life Be a Pro, right? Which I thought would have been awesome to play, but I just didn't have time in college or much money either. So yeah, so I never did play those. But yeah, 12 and 13, I like those games. I would probably give it to 12 over 13, but I don't know. They were good. They were good enough. They were still games that were good enough. 2K, oh, I wish I had played these ones. I had 2K9 on PS2, and it was really bad. But if I had had it on PS3, I'm sure I would have loved it. Yeah, I don't know. There's some 2K games that I wish I would have played, but I haven't. And maybe I will, one day. I don't know. Maybe I'll go and... I don't know. No, I won't. There's no way I'm getting a PS3 and doing this. Anyway, it would be fun, but I don't know if it would be worth getting a PS3, right? And a lot of people... I'm also not much of a gamer that much, so that also factors in. But, yeah, anyway. These ones, so again, I kind of lost interest in gaming for a while in here as well. So I had 12 and 13, but I never played 10 or 11. I had the demo of 10. I mentioned that before. Wasn't big on the first person fighting or whatever. I liked the way they did it in 09. I don't think many people will agree with me, but I just thought it was super fun. You just beat down that guy. He's done. He's done. I loved NHL 09. I had 08 on PC. So it was a little different. It was kind of like a bare bones thing. 09 was the first game I had on PS3. That was NHL. And it was awesome. I loved every bit of it, honestly. Be a Pro, I think, was new to that one. And that was really fun. Franchise then was... Well, it was what it was back then. I'll talk about it in this next thing. So, yeah, 2K. I had 2K6. And I think in terms of statistics and just all the things, the records that were all there that you could break, and you could see all the records in NHL history, you could see all the cup winners, and adding your name to that list. I love that part of 2K6. And I think they had it in 2K5, 2K7. I never played those games. I know. I missed out on a lot of games, but 2K6 is the one that I would vote for. 09 I would have voted for last time, but 2K6 I would have voted for here because I just, because I only played it, but I just love that skybox thing where you could go, you could look at all the records, you could put your own records on there, and I wish that NHL games had that kind of thing still. I miss that. I play My League sometimes, on the NBA games, because the NBA games, they just have so much more to offer. There's just so much more, and it's 2K, right? It's 2K, and I just miss all that stuff, like adding your player to the record books in your franchise mode, adding your team name to the list of all the other cup champions, and it doesn't just go away after a certain amount of years. You can look at all of them. You can look at all of them. I just love that. I don't know. I miss that. I don't know if NHL 23 has done anything like that. I have not heard that they have, so I'm not really keen on that. So, yeah, I just miss that kind of stuff. Biggest All-Star Game snub this year. Cole Caulfield is injured, so he wouldn't have gone on there anyway. I actually don't know if anyone else got injured. Maybe. But, yeah, Dahlin, I agree. It's definitely Dahlin. He should be there. He's playing amazing. Yeah, what's going on? So hopefully he didn't get injured recently, and I just missed that. Because I think Dahlin is definitely the biggest snub. Does the All-Star Game matter that much? Not really, but I love seeing the skills competition still. So, I mean, it's nice to see some of the best players get into that. Although, man, There was one year when Alfredson was picking all the teams. It was someone else. I don't remember who. Maybe it was Nick Foligno. I don't know. But Alfredson picked. So I was like ready to watch Alex Edler in the hardest shot, and he like made him just a passer, and that's all he did the whole skills competition was he just passed pucks. It was like, oh my goodness, like what is this? So I don't know. I hope that more players get a chance to do what they actually want to do and better choices are made. I think the past All-Star games have been fine. I just remember that Alfredson year was like, oh my goodness, Alfie, what are you doing? What are you doing, Alfie? It's like when he shot the puck at that guy's head. I don't remember who it was. It's like, what are you doing, Alfie? Anyway, sorry. Which of these 4 mid-2000s EA NHL games was the best? I did not play 2005. I regret it. 07 I only played on PS2, and 06 as well, but it was basically similar. I had this on computer, NHL 2004 on computer. I'll say NHL 2004 probably is my favorite. I know people love 07, and if you played it on the PSP, you love 07. I know people that played it on the PSP, and they were just all into it. That's like, I get it. I get why 07 is so high, but yeah, 06 was great too. I loved how you could just this is coming from me who just played the old games and just pressed all the buttons instead of using skill stick or whatever they have now. I use it to some degree now, but I even like going to the hybrid controls because I like passing with the actual pass button instead of, anyway, whatever, who cares, right? I'm not a gamer, but I love 2004 and 2004. I loved 06 though, when you could just press a button and basically he'd put it between his legs or he'd do some cool move. I thought that was cool. But 2004 is probably my favorite out of them. Just all around awesome game. You could do so much with it. And yeah, my all-time favorite though, NHL Hits. I never played NHL Hits, and I regret that too. So I wish I would have played 2003 because I hear it's the best, but who knows. And 2K, I never played these ones either. Early 2000 games, I love 2003. My all-time favorite game, NHL ever. My all-time favorite NHL game, NHL 2002, by far. It's the first one it's not actually the first one I played, but it's the first one I really got into, and I just adore it. I loved the NHL cards. I loved just playing it. I loved making guys on it, making players or whatever. It was just really good. It was just all around just such a great game. Which of these 4 late 90s games? NHL 98 is the one that I played. I never played any of the other ones. So, again, NHL 98 would be my choice. Best intro to a hockey game ever. Oh, that intro is the most amazing thing. I watched the other intros on YouTube. Nothing compares to NHL 98 intro. Like, it's just amazing. The music's amazing. Some of the music in the other games is a little better than 98, but nothing beats that NHL 98 intro. It's just so good. And the only thing I did on NHL 98, though, was I was so bad at the games, because I was so young at that point, that I didn't even play regular games. I just basically played the shootout. I just always played a shootout. And even then, I was pretty bad at it. So, but I would still pick NHL 98, just for the intro alone. No, just because it's the only one I've played. Yeah, and I played none of the. I guess I played NHL 94 on, like, one of the newer games had it on it, and so I played a little bit. I don't really care. NHL 94 is gonna win. It's everyone's, nostalgic pick when you talk about the people who were growing up at this age. So NHL 94 is, yeah, it's the one that's gonna win this kind of poll. But I don't really care about these games that much. If it's nostalgia for you, that's awesome, but not for me that much. I don't really know. Which top voted song from the past EA NHL soundtrack? I won't go through all of these because I don't really care, but I would pick Sweetness as well. Out of these 5, my favorite of all of them is not here. It did not win its poll, but yeah, anyway. And I don't really know if I've listened to some of these. Killer Be Kill. Darude Sandstrom is pretty amazing though. I gotta say it's classic, but no, I'd probably still say Sweetness. Joker and the Thief, it's got a good intro, but yeah, this is all just opinion stuff, so whatever. Out of these 4 NHL teams, which one would you want to see or would be most okay with seeing relocate? For me, Arizona. I love the Florida Panthers. I don't want them to move ever. I want them to change their logo back to this logo, but yeah, I mean, Arizona, that's where it's at. they should move, right? Like, I don't know. I know. There's Arizona fans out there, but there's a lot of them still. I know. They might be biting fingertips off of people, but, Anyway, sorry, I shouldn't make fun of Arizona fans. If you're a hockey fan, you're awesome. If you like Arizona, that's okay. You're awesome. I just personally just think the desert, uh, I don't know. It's not even that bad to have the desert because I mean I don't mind that Florida's in like the sunshine thing. I just think Arizona as a team really rubbed me the wrong way when they treated Shane Doan how they did on the way out, and I don't know. I kind of get it. It's a business, right? I mean, if I was against teams for treating people wrong on the way out, like I'd be against Vancouver big time because they've just done what they did to Bruce, and ugh. But yeah, I don't know. There's just something about Arizona and not attracting a lot of fans. It's like, well, Florida doesn't really either. I think I just like Florida a lot more because, they've had Jovanovski, they've had Luongo, they've had a lot of players that I liked, so I gravitated towards Florida being my second favorite team. And they are, and so it's very biased that I say Florida should stay instead of Arizona. But at the same time, Arizona, man, like some of the stuff going on there, it's just like, yeah, I mean, it would be nicer to have a team in Canada, in Quebec City, perhaps. Like, let's move on for a second. I would, another thing that I would normally have said in the past is Columbus, but I've actually even seen on here that there's a lot of Columbus fans, and so I don't mind that. Columbus, change your logo. Oh, well, that's going to get some response. Anyway, I put Ottawa. I don't know why I put Ottawa on there, just because I think Melnick was like, well, maybe I will move. I don't know. Anyway, let's move on, because Quebec City, I totally agree. That's where they should relocate to. If a team ever relocates, I would love to see it Quebec City. Of course, is that logistically the best thing that could work out? Probably not. But is it what I want? Absolutely. I would love that. Halifax, that would be cool. Kansas City would be cool. Houston would be cool. They would all be fine. And then there's people that say you're watering down the league, no more new teams. This isn't really a new team, but I think it'd be fun to have more teams. I don't know. It does water it down in some ways, I guess, but like if you only had 6 teams now, like how crazy would that be? Also, it'd be impossible basically to make the NHL anymore. So every kid's dream would be like you have to be the absolute greatest of all time to make it. But I don't know. I like more teams. I think it's fun, although it definitely hurts Vancouver's chances at anything going right. Dirtiest player in NHL history. Yeah, so, I mean, Matt Cook is definitely going to get all the votes, and rightfully so. He is awful, and I put Bertuzzi on here mostly just because of that horrible incident, right? Bertuzzi is probably the best in terms of an actual being a decent human being. Well, I'm also biased because I'm a Canucks fan. Obviously, that horrific thing, and all these guys have, except for Chris Simon, I think all these guys have ended careers, and so I think that's also part of it too. And then, there's guys like, Matt Cook steps on, Carlson's Achilles and cuts it and injures him. And then there's Chris Pronger with his, who knows if it was a stomp or not, right? It probably was something little there, but we can't tell conclusively if he had intent of doing it when he stepped on Kessler with his skate. And with Cook, you think, yeah, well, Cook has intentionally kneed guys like crazy. He's intentionally hit guys in the head. He's ended Mark Savard's career, basically. And it's just like, oh, it's horrible. But you can't conclusively say, did he actually mean to, slice Carlson up? So my thought is just, even though Chris Simon has not ended careers, the type of stuff that he's done is just like, I don't know. It just seems worse when you can clearly see that he purposefully stomps on a guy's foot with his skate. And of course there's the head shot here, like not a headshot in check, but like he took his, stick, made it look like an axe and just chopped Ryan Holweg in the face. That's pretty bad stuff there. So Yeah, I lean towards Simon. He hasn't done as much damage, but just in terms of intent, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard. You know, I do. It's definitely between Simon and Cook. I always think of Simon, but you know what, Matt Cook, I probably would go with him anyway, because, yeah, I mean, just the amount of intentional stuff that he's done is just crazy. It's insane. It's awful. So and then you get guys like, Eddie Shore or like, Ulf Samuelsson, and I just don't know enough about them. I know Ulf Samuelsson, like Matt Cook, he need people. Brian Marchment, he need people. That's bad, but and then there's Raffi Torres. He headshotted people, but so many other people headshot people. Like, it's just like Matt Cook, man, I don't know. And that's why I think of Chris Simon. Like, if we were going to do the dirtiest hockey player ever, like outside of the NHL, it would be that Slovenian guy who like kicked a guy in the shoulder with his skate, right? It's just the skate stuff. If you're intentionally using your blade on your skate to hurt people, which Matt Cook may have done, and even Chris Pronger may have done, like, to me that just stands out more than almost anything, because you're just like ready to cut people open at that point. It's just like, what are you doing, Chris Simon? What are you doing when you stomp on the guy? So I don't know. Maybe I will go Matt Cook, but Chris Simon to me is definitely up there too. Lots of great goalies drafted between 2012 and 2014. If they'd all been thrown into one draft, knowing what you know right now with all these guys available, who is your pick? My pick would also be Vasilevsky. All these guys are amazing. I understand the Shesterkin votes for sure. It's a very good group of goalies, but Vasi, to me, right now, he's the one that's proven he could win the Stanley Cup. Obviously, he had an amazing team to do that, but he helped big time as well. Like, you see some of the stuff he was doing there, like, it was nuts. So, yeah, I think people take away too much from Vasilevsky when they say that he's behind an amazing, amazing team. Like, it's not quite the same as being behind, the New Jersey Devils defense like Brodeur was. And Brodeur was still an amazing goalie. But, like, I don't know if it compares to Vasilevsky as much. I don't know. We'll see, I guess, as the careers go on, because these guys still have a lot to go in their careers. But, yeah. Another draft one. If you knew all that you know now, which of these four players... And again, that's only because I only have 4 options to put up here. Which of these 4 players from the 2015 draft would you have taken second overall after Connor McDavid? Some people say that they'll take someone before Connor McDavid. I would never do that. I don't think that's smart. I would easily take Connor McDavid 100% of the time if I had the first overall pick then. If I had the second, knowing what I know now, I probably would have taken... yeah. I would take Kaprizov as well. I would say Kaprizov. Marner is amazing. Rantanen is amazing. They're all amazing, and it's very close. Like, don't get me wrong. You can argue any of these guys. You can argue people who are not on here, on this poll, in the same spot, like, who's better. You could argue a lot of things. I'm losing my words. But personally, I would take Kaprizov. I personally would. This is just a little thing. Yeah, Pinholes Graham, he's awesome. Go watch his videos. Which American Original 6 team do you like or tolerate the most? I like Detroit the most, personally. I think the others have given me reason not to as a Canucks fan, especially Boston, because that's more recent and more personal in my own heart. Because I never did watch the 94 thing. I wasn't born until 95, which... missed out on a great run there. But anyway, yeah. And then Chicago, of course, they were kind of like the dragon to the Canucks that they finally slayed in 2011. So, and even then, it was like almost not the case. They almost blew a 3-0 series lead, which is crazy. But yeah, Chicago and Boston, I actually didn't mind Chicago for a while after that. Like, it was like, okay, yeah, they beat us twice, but they're not Boston. They're not Brad Marchand rubbing it in your face every single second. Oh, man. But yeah, anyway. Chicago now, though, after all that they've gone through with the whole... anyway, with all that stuff... It's just awful. And so the Chicago is definitely lessened in my eyes because of all that stuff. But yeah, anyway. Who do I like the most out of these? It's Detroit. Easily Detroit. Love Detroit. in a lot of ways. They're not in my top 5 favorite teams, but I still like them. I like them quite a bit, and I like seeing them succeed. Not more than some other teams because they succeed a lot. Not lately, but they usually succeed a lot. But yeah, Detroit for sure. Out of all the original 6 teams, I'd probably say the same. Although Montreal, I like Montreal a decent amount too, but I probably would put Detroit ahead of them as well. So yeah. Greatest NHL moment out of these moments. So you got the 50 and 39, that's crazy. Or in the air, that's the most iconic. Does iconic always mean the greatest? Not necessarily, but or in the air is definitely the most iconic because that picture is the most iconic thing in the world. Ray Bourque lifting the cup. Whew. If you're talking about emotional stuff, like, man, that is maybe the greatest moment. And then 5 goals, 5 ways. Like, who's ever going to do that again? I'd probably lean toward 5 goals, 5 ways, just because that's just so insane that happened. But the Ray Bourque one definitely hits me as well. And so, I don't know. I probably would vote 5 goals, 5 ways, but that's a tough one. That's definitely a tough one. And again, I only have 14 characters to describe all this. I wish I had more, but when it's a poll with the pictures, you only get a few characters to write all this stuff. So Ray lifts cup, yeah, that doesn't really sound too amazing in terms of like if you just don't know anything about what's happened there. But if you know what happened there, Ray lifts cup after all those years. After being, probably the second best defenseman of all time at that point, I think Lidstrom may have, and we'll talk about that later too, Lidstrom may have surpassed him. But, yeah, I mean, just to never have a cup and finally your last chance, and he gets it. It's just awesome. It's so awesome, especially for a player of Ray Bourque's caliber. If it had to be one of these 5 teams, which of these Canadian NHL teams do you think would be the first to break Canada's Stanley Cup drought? Vancouver Canucks, easy choice. That's what I have to say to that. But obviously, it doesn't look very likely lately. Sorry to Montreal again. I wish I could put more than 5 answers on here, but I didn't put Montreal. I didn't put Ottawa. Just because the Jets, well, first of all, because I'm biased and I put the Canucks on there, but also because the Jets look so great, and the Edmonton Oilers and Flames, they were ahead of the Canadiens and the Sens at the time. So, yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know what the standings even look like now, but yeah, that was kind of my reasoning. The top 4 and the Canucks. So, yeah. Anyway. Lanny McDonald is the champ when it comes to this topic, but who of these other 4 players had the best mustache? If you haven't seen my mustache video, you won't know this because not many people have seen that video. But yeah, I love Jeff Odgers. He's obviously got an amazing mustache. Underrated, but I did give it to Eddie Shack. And you can't actually see it that well here, Eddie Shack's mustache. But Eddie Shack had just like the most unreal mustache too. So yeah, I would put Eddie Shack in 2nd place. And I put Jeff Odgers in 3rd. And I'm pretty sure I put Dennis Marouk in 4th. But I could be wrong on that. But yeah, and then I think I had Paul McLean in 5th. So basically, these are the other guys that I thought had better mustaches. But yeah, Dennis Marouk winning, I get it. Oh, these are all the songs. I don't care about most of the songs. Oh, the Canucks have a New Jersey. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I don't even really know, honestly. I mean, my favorite is "I Hear You Calling" by Gob. Because that's just so nostalgic and classic. But yeah, the songs one, I don't know. It's not big. I'm not big into the soundtracks of NHL that much, unless I hear all these old ones. Some of them sometimes. Like I hear, yeah, it's just nostalgia. But yeah, this one is I'm so disappointed by. Like best brand name in the Reebok commercial. Oh, every time I saw the commercial, I was like, Sidney Crosby. That is the most boring name you could have ever picked. Every athlete in their dog is like, oh, my initials and my number. And maybe not. That might not be the case. But, like, it's just, like, the most boring name ever. SC87. Why not do SC87? Why not pick the most boring thing ever, Sidney Crosby? Why not? My personal favorite is the Cross. The Cross by Crosby. I love it. I just think that was funny. Dis, even that's better than SC87. Come on, Sid. Come on. Which Canucks jersey era is the best before they switch back? Yeah, blah, blah. My favorite is the stick and rink. I'm a stick and rink guy, but I love all. Well, I love the flying V for like the reason that it's just so funny that it was a thing because it's ugly. So I don't know if I really love the flying V, but but I like all of them. I think they're all good. I don't know if there's a Canucks jersey that I necessarily even hate at all. The only thing I don't really like is when they put the text over the Vancouver, like the Vancouver text over the Orca. I was like, that's weird. But yeah, I don't know. Their current jerseys are fine. If I had to rank these four, I would probably go stick and rink, and then the blue Orca, and then I'd put the skate, and then fourth is where I'd put the current era, and then fifth flying V. So that's kind of what I would do, but yeah, I love the skate too. I guess I'm not as big on it as the other people because my nostalgia is, and when I came into the league watching NHL hockey, it was the red Orca, the blue and red Orca, sorry, that they wore with Marcus Naslin and Ed Jovanovski. Yeah, I just love it. West Coast Express. The best of these last four Stanley Cup winning Detroit Red Wings teams. I think 2002 is probably the right answer just because it was so stacked. It was just crazy. Like Luc Robitaille, Dominic Hasek. Who else was on there? I think Brett Hull was on there, right? Like Brendan Shanahan was on there. I don't know when Shanahan came to the Detroit Red Wings, but he was on the 2002 team. Just like insane. Plus, you have all the other legends on there. Sergei Fedorov and Steve Yzerman is still there. Nicholas Lidstrom. Like, it's just insane. Plus, you have the young guys who were about to be like the next generation of Detroit Red Wings legends. Pavel Datsyuk and I believe Zetterberg. I might be wrong about Zetterberg actually of playing in that playoff run, but I believe Datsyuk was. So, just crazy. Crazy team. So I would also choose 2002. Obviously, they're all amazing because they all won the Stanley Cup, but 2002 is just nuts. After a Hart, a Rocket Richard Trophy, a Cup, 3 other finals appearances, as well as 3 other conference finals appearances, and extremely strong play in the first decade of his career, do you think Corey Perry will eventually end up in the Hall of Fame? I don't know because I know that sometimes they don't like certain players. I think it'll depend on how he finishes his career and how he's viewed when he finishes his career. Does he deserve to be in there? I think so. I think he's done quite a bit. Not first ballot by any means, but I think eventually he probably should get in there. But do I think he will? I'm not sure. I'm not sold on that. I know that they're not having guys like Dale Hunter in there. They're not having guys like Jeremy Roenick in there. And so I just depend. I mean, obviously they put Chris Pronger in there. Obviously they put... I forget who was else. Someone mentioned someone else that they put in the Hall of Fame. They're like, if this guy got in, anyone can get in. And it's like, well, then why isn't Jeremy Roenick in there? I don't know. But anyway, So I don't know if Corey Perry ends up in there. Does he deserve to? I think he probably does. But will he? I don't know. Which of these Montreal Canadiens players that were present for all 4 late Cups, or all 4 late 70s Cups, Stanley Cups, apart from Guy Lafleur and Ken Dryden, were the best? I think this is the right choice. Larry Robinson, I think he was the best choice. But all of them are amazing, of course. Which jersey do you think Connor Bedard will be wearing next season? Vancouver Canucks. Easy choice. I hope so. Oh my goodness, that would be amazing. What do I actually think? I actually think he'll probably end up on the Ducks. Like, it makes sense. Do I hope he's on the Ducks? I hope he's on the Ducks more than I hope he's on these other teams, but obviously I hope he's on the Canucks. That would be the best. And I'd prefer him to be on Montreal as well over the Ducks as well. But if he's on the Ducks, it'd be fun to see him and Zegras together, I think, but I don't know. Best Vezina candidate of these if they came and strapped on the pads for a season. This was a random one. Warren Sapp of the 99 Bucks, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Jack of the 2000s Nuggets. That's the guy on MVP. The guy, the chimpanzee. Scott Foster, that makes sense the way he got the most votes. Derek Joslin, he's not a goalie. So the only actual goalies that have played in the NHL are Scott Foster and Patrick Desrochers. Patrick Desrochers was an actual guy who earned a spot in the lineup and wasn't an emergency goalie. So Patrick Desrochers is the right answer, but I just remember him for being, I think it was NHL 2003, and he was like the lowest rated goalie out of everybody, so I put him up there because I remember him as not being a particularly good NHL goalie in terms of NHL standard, because obviously if you get to the NHL, you're a good player, but I mean, by the NHL standard, not every player is a good player, right? So there's that. At the end of his career, how many Stanley Cups will Connor McDavid have won? Lots of people say only one. I think he will get one. Will he get it with the Oilers? I think he will get one with the Oilers, and that's it. Because I don't think the Oilers are going to be ever some dynasty with McDavid there. What they've done so far, I don't see McDavid being part of an Oilers dynasty at all. But I'll say two. I'll say he gets two. One with the Oilers, and I think at the end of his career, he'll probably go somewhere else and try and be on a contender, and he'll win another one. That's my, who knows, right? But I would say I would have voted for he'll clinch a couple. I would say two for Connor McDavid. But yeah, who knows? Who knows? Maybe he'll get zero, and that's crazy if he does. That would be a real tragedy, I think. Especially, well, Oilers are my least favorite team, so not that much of a tragedy. But I still like McDavid, and I like Draisaitl, and I'd like to see them win, not in Edmonton. But I just think, like, what a crime it is to McDavid for the Oilers to have not built a good enough team around him that he'll never win a cup. Like, that's crazy. Like, McDavid is one of the best players in history. And by the end of his career, he will be one of the best players of all time. Probably top 5 at least, right? Like I that's what I would say by the end of his career, if his career keeps going the way it's going, right? And to have him never have won a Stanley Cup, like, what a crime done to him by the Oilers. Oh, man. Least favorite, this is a weird question, least favorite surviving franchise with origins in the 1967 NHL expansion. Yeah, my least favorite is the Pittsburgh Penguins. I actually really like the Flyers. Flyers are in my top 10 favorite teams. Not my top 5, but my top 10. I love the Flyers. I love seeing their run in 2010. I know their fans have probably done the most, well, then I think of Vancouver again. But one of the most egregious things I've ever seen ever by any NHL team's fans was when the Flyers fans threw their like bracelets on the ice that were supposed to be like, it was supposed to be a time of, you know, a memorial time for I believe their owner. I could be wrong, but it's just like, to have the level of disrespect to throw those bands on the ice because your team is losing when it's a memory, it's supposed to be in his memory. Like, how disrespectful a thing is that? So I get why there's a lot of dislike for Flyers fans, and there's a lot of other reasons too, but for me, the Flyers in general, I actually quite like. I like the Blues. The Stars are kind of one of those meh teams. Los Angeles Kings, kind of like, I'm not a big fan of Los Angeles Kings, LA. But Pittsburgh is probably my least favorite, just because I never was a big Crosby fan. I mean, I will admit he is one of the best players, like, of all time. Like, I would even put him in the top 10. But I've never really been a big Crosby guy. I think when he came into the league, it was just like Crosby or Ovechkin, Crosby or Ovechkin. And Ovechkin was just a lot cooler. He was hitting people. He was scoring goals, like the most amazing goals. It was just nuts. And Crosby was like, obviously he wasn't defended very well, but it's still like the look that you get when you're a youngster watching hockey and you just see this guy whining all the time. It's just like, oh my goodness, like it does not endear you to him at all. And so, you know, over the years I've minded Crosby less and less, although it didn't help that he chopped off what's-his-face's finger. But I mean, everyone does their slashing. It was just pretty bad result. But I don't know, Crosby, he's grown a lot more in my eyes. Like, I don't disrespect him as much as I did once. But still, you know, I don't know. I'd never like to see him win anymore. I'm like, I didn't like to see him win in the first place with the Penguins, and so the Penguins are low because of that. And Yeah, they're not as low as Boston. They're not as low as Oilers. But, I mean, I'm still not a big Penguins fan, personally. So they would be my least favorite. Best of these pictures, they're all pretty awesome. But Link Gates is like the best to me. I know a lot of people don't know who he is, but he got in I think a bar fight right before his draft. And so this is his draft picture, and he's just got two black eyes. To me, that's the best picture. That's the best picture. Brandon Tanev's is pretty funny, and his new ones are pretty funny too. Although he's kind of overdoing it a bit, I think now, by keep going with it, by trying to keep doing this face every year. But yeah, it's just we're trying to do a face every year. But I mean, what are you gonna do, right? I mean, it's fun. But yeah, Link Gates to me, that's the best one. It seems like Ullmark is leading the charge at the moment for the Vezina trophy, but who is your prediction to actually win it? You know what? I feel like I still lean toward Ullmark. I'm just gonna look up quickly who is leading the league in the goaltender stats. I mean, you know, you got the goals against average. I don't really count goals against average that much. Who's the best in save percentage? I usually look at save percentage. Save percentage, it's Ullmark still, and Ottinger's in that as well. Hellebuck's in there too. I still think it'll be Ullmark. Let's check the money puck stats, because a lot of people like that better as a I forget what the stat is called. I'll see it here in a second. Goals saved above expected. A lot of people look to that, and Ullmark leads there too. So yeah, I do think it'll be Ullmark, which is crazy. I was not a fan of. I didn't think it was a good choice to go with Ullmark when Boston picked him up, but he's proven everybody wrong. He's done so well, and you know, a lot of that is the team. But still, goals saved above expected. That shows you that he's doing very, very well himself, right? So, yeah, I think I would say Ullmark as well. Most skilled of these players at their peak. Yeah, like this is tough. But one thing that really, my initial thought was Peter Forsberg. He was just a force, but. And part of me was thinking, yeah, Jágr just played a long time. He was an amazing player that just played a long time. But one of the things that really swayed my thought was like, Jágr in the 90s was seen as one of the best players, like, ever. Like, the 1998 top 100 players list, he is very high in that. And I just think, wow, like, how did he get so high on that list when he was only 8 years into his career? And so people of that day were seeing Jágr as something very, very special. And even though I wasn't around back then, Jágr was highly, highly, highly seen as one of the best players, even of all time. I think he was like 30-something, in the 30s. And so he was beating out players like Bure. He was beating out players like Fedorov. He was beating out players like Forsberg in the minds of people back then. So yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, I don't know. I do get this, and I probably would say Jágr as well because of what I've heard. But the first name that comes to mind when I think of this is Forsberg. Peak Forsberg was unreal. Peak Forsberg is also the only thing I've ever watched myself, so because the first year I watched hockey is when he won the Hart Trophy, so yeah, in 2003. So Pavel Bure, obviously unreal skill, crazy, speedy. You know, he had the deeks back in the day like no other at his time. Fedorov was also amazing for sure, but I do side with Jágr. I do side with the Jágr thing here. Other than Gretzky, Orr, and Lemieux, who is the all-time greatest NHL player, I would also say Gordie Howe. Great names up here, but I would say Gordie Howe as well. All-time best Russian-born hockey player, I would also say Ovechkin as well. Lots of amazing names, but Ovi is really proving that he is something else. All-time best Finnish-born hockey player. I love Barkov. It is definitely between Solani and Curry. Curry, man, it's tough. Solani's rookie year was just the most unbelievable thing, and a lot of people say that Curry benefited so much from being with Gretzky, but I mean, yeah, I don't think Gretzky is quite like Curry. When Curry and Gretzky, I don't think is quite like, you know, Kunitz and Crosby. Curry was an amazing player as well. Solani is very legendary in his own right, and I mean, he had some bad years. Bad year in Colorado, but Solani, you know, he picked it up and he played amazing in the last parts of his career with the Ducks. And I mean, of course, you know, you fade away a little bit, but like he had some amazing seasons in there. Like, what am I thinking of? Solani? Because there was a season with the Ducks after he came back from the lockout. Teemu Solani. Let me just look up his thing here. Because I thought oh, it was 80 points. 2010 and 11, he had 80 points, a 30-goal season. So, and he was probably 37 or something then. Oh, man, no, he was 40. He put up 80 points when he was 40. Wow. Yeah. So, yeah, Solani, good stuff from him, but, I don't know. Do I give it to Solani? Do I give it to Curry? I want to give it to Solani, but I don't know if that's a good choice because I never did watch Curry when he was playing. So I would lean towards Solani, but I don't know if that's the right choice. So that's a hard one. All-time best Czech-born hockey player, apart from Jágr, who obviously is, and Hasek, who obviously is the best goalie from Czechia, and maybe even like basically if I had put Jágr or Hasek on this poll, they would win hands down. And I wanted to put other players on there in that case. I don't know if Pastrnak is the best right now. I mean, I know people are putting him up because he's playing amazing right now, but I don't know. Over a whole career, I think Elias is the right choice. I think Hayduk is still ahead of Pastrnak. Do I think Pastrnak will be the best out of these four on the poll at the end of his career? I do think so. I do think that, but he's not there yet. I think Patrick Elias beats him out. Slovakia, basically the same thing. I don't know where this came from. Like, again, recency bias. Why is Hossa ahead of Stastny and Mikita? I don't know. Chara should not be first either, I don't think. I think it's between Stastny and Mikita, and I would lean toward Mikita. Mikita was amazing. Legendary, but, like, you look at some of his stats, and they're, like, they hold up. Like, they hold up. Like, he's not just this guy who was, like, a classic guy. He was an older name, so he's a legend. No, like Mikita was an amazing player, and so yeah, I would actually put Mikita on here. And so, but man, like Peter Stastny, to his own credit, like he was an amazing player as well. And I'd put Stastny and Mikita easily ahead of Chara and Hossa. I'd put Chara third. I'd put Hossa fourth. That's how I would do it. All-time best German-born player apart from Draisaitl, because of course Draisaitl would win, and Heatley, because if I put Heatley on here, he would win also if Draisaitl was not there. So I put these guys on there. I don't know, really. It's not Stützle, not yet. Stützle eventually maybe will be there, but no, not yet. Because Draisaitl, I would say, is already the best German-born hockey player, no matter what, right? Walt Tkachuk, I probably would lean toward him. Hesht and Sturm, though, like, they're great players as well. My initial thought was actually to put Hesht. Like, he's underrated. Look at Hesht. Look up Hesht, and he is very underrated for what you might think, because he wasn't a high-profile player, but he was very good. Sturm was a little bit more higher profile than Hesht, but was he better than Hesht? I don't know. Like, this is a hard one for me. And Walt Tkachuk, like, good stats compared to these guys, but yeah, who knows? Again, like, I would lean maybe toward Tkachuk, but I don't know. Tkachuk, Hesht, Sturm, it's a toss-up. Stützle, not yet, but probably eventually, right? All-time best Swedish-born hockey player. Lidstrom or Forsberg. I love Peter Forsberg, guys. This is Nicholas Lidstrom's poll. I don't know how he's not winning this. Peter Forsberg is unbelievably amazing. At his peak, he was so dominant. But guys, it's Nicholas Lidstrom. One thing that was brought up too is that Borje Salming should have been on here. I don't know, maybe. But the better argument to take out Nilsson from this poll, I thought, was Henrik Lundqvist. Lundqvist is amazing, and I should have put Lundqvist on this poll, but I did not. So yeah, I don't think Lundqvist is the best, but he should be on there over Nilsson, Kent Nilsson. But Kent Nilsson is amazing and underrated, and look Kent Nilsson up, because he was a very, very talented player. Did he always give it 100%? That's another thing. But he was an amazingly talented player. So, man, he deserves a shout out. But if there's only 4, I do think Lundqvist should have been on there over him. But guys, Nicholas Lidstrom. Anyway, which current division leader in the NHL are you most surprised by? Are they still... So, Bruins, yeah. Let me just reload this, actually. Oh, man, what's going on? Okay, so, yeah, Bruins are still first. Hurricanes are still first, but they're tied. They've only played one less game. That's why they're first. So expect New Jersey to overtake them, or not. But New Jersey's been playing really well lately, 8-1-1. Who else is there? Stars are still barely winning. Knights are still winning. So this is actually, even though this was 2 weeks ago, the teams are all the same. They're all still the division leaders. Which are you most surprised by? Dallas is what you said. I would agree, honestly. I think it's so weird that Dallas is the top team in their division. I always underestimate Dallas. And should I stop underestimating them? Probably, but I keep doing it anyway. So I would say Dallas as well. Vegas, I kind of thought they would probably be back in the mix. Like, I did not... I was so... The people that said that they would miss the playoffs again after last year, it was like, really? Like, it's Vegas, though, you know? And I don't think Thompson will be that bad that they don't get back in the playoffs. I hope they miss the playoffs, but, I mean, obviously now it doesn't look like they will. Boston, I was pretty surprised by them being first. I was thinking they were going to have a down year. I was thinking they were going to miss the playoffs, actually, and boy, was I ever wrong about that. Carolina's probably the least surprising, though. But yeah, Dallas, I would say that Dallas is the most surprising. All-time best American-born hockey player is Patrick Kane. Yep. I'll just leave it at that, I guess. Who is the greatest defenseman all-time behind Bobby Orr? Lidstrom or Bork, that's kind of the thing. It's not Cale Makar already. He might be. It looks like he will be if he finishes his career like he's playing now. He will be, I think, the best behind Orr. Or maybe even better than Orr. Who knows, right? But right now it's between Bork and Lidstrom. And, yeah, it's tough. I would lean toward Lidstrom, though. I would. Which of these Stanley Cup finalists had the best team? I have no idea. But I like people's argument for the 2002 Carolina Hurricanes because they did really well facing off against that stacked Detroit team. So I would lean toward the 2002 Hurricanes. But again, I'm not really sure. So the only one I really actually watched was the Montreal Canadiens of 2021. And they took advantage. They did well, but they took advantage of some choke there, you know, which maybe the Carolina Hurricanes did as well. I don't know, but yeah. Which of these NHL teams has the best primary logo? My favorite of these is the Wild. And which of this one I tried to do logos that people don't like as much. I'm glad Hurricanes is winning because I actually like the Hurricanes logo. A lot of people don't. Caps is the worst one. Ducks is a little bit underrated in a way because everyone hates it. Is it, you know, in the bottom 5 logos of the whole league? Yeah, but is it, you know, the worst? No, Caps is the worst. And I like the Ducks logo better than the Blue Jackets one. I don't like the Blue Jackets one that much, so I probably could have put the LA Kings logo here too, but I put the Blue Jackets because I personally just don't like it. But the LA Kings don't have a good logo either, and I would put the Ducks ahead of the LA Kings as well. Best fighter in NHL history, it's Bob Probert. It is Bob Probert, guys. Like, well, I don't know. Dave Brown apparently never lost a fight. So, I don't know. Could be Dave Brown. There might be an argument there, but Bob Probert is just, like, of course he's the best fighter, right? Dave the Hammer Schultz, yeah, he got a lot of penalty minutes. Yeah, he was part of the Broad Street Bullies. And yes, he was, like, basically the Broad Street Bully. But Dave the Hammer Schultz, like, I don't know. He was a big fighter, but is he the best in NHL history? No. Favorite non-hockey team sport to watch out of these? My favorite is American football to watch. I like sometimes watching the NFL. It's the one I'm most interested in. Soccer sometimes. Basketball not as much. Baseball is my least favorite to watch. I just find baseball just so boring, personally. No offense if you like it, because if you like it, you don't find it that boring. Or maybe you like it because you find it, I don't know, if boringness is a reason to like it. But, you know, people who like baseball, good on you. Me, it's not my thing. Not my thing at all. Best player from the 2010 NHL draft. I do think it's Mark Stone. I've said that before. I do think it's Mark Stone. But Tarasenko has definitely given me good arguments for putting him on there. Kuznetsov, he was very good in his playoff run, and he's still a good player, but I don't think he lives up quite to Mark Stone and Vlad Tarasenko. Tyler Seguin, again, he kind of was very good his first half of his career and kind of fell off the second half. Taylor Hall just has never reached the same heights as Mark Stone and Vlad Tarasenko in his career, I don't think, although he's won a Hart Trophy, so maybe he has reached a higher high than Mark Stone and Tarasenko in a way. Well, not a higher high. You don't get a higher high than winning the Stanley Cup. So that's the only one on here that's done that is... Oh, no, I guess Kuznetsov has too, but Tarasenko... Tarasenko, I love Tarasenko. That guy's wrist shot is just one of the most amazing things ever, especially when he had good wrists. And because I think his injury was a hand injury, right? But before that injury, his shot was like... His wrist shot was like one of the best things I've ever seen. It just looked like it always looked like it like just took off. Like he didn't have any wind up whatsoever. His stick would like be still. It would look still, and he could take a shot and it'd be like the craziest snipe. It was... I need to go back and watch some Vlad Tarasenko stuff. Like, it was amazing. I would probably still give it to Mark Stone, but yeah, it is a lot closer than people think. The scariest of these to have played hockey against, yeah, in some ways Scott Stevens, but if you remember to keep your head up, like, you know, he's not as bad as some of these other guys that will just cheap shot you like crazy. Eddie Shore, there's something to be said about Eddie Shore. I don't know if cheap shot is the right thing. Kinda, yeah. I think it was like a sucker punch that ended somebody's career or something like that. I might be wrong on that. Matt Cook, I would probably vote for because Matt Cook will just like, you know, want to like hurt you really badly. Chris Simon, if you don't make him very upset, like you're probably okay. But if you make him upset, like you might just get murdered. Link Gates, I said Matt Cook before I said Link Gates. Maybe still Matt Cook because I would be more afraid of just like getting a horrible cheap shot and just that came out of nowhere for no reason. Link Gates, there's some stuff about Link Gates for sure that would, you know, make you scared of him for sure. But you could, for me as a player, I could probably, you know, try to avoid him, skate away from him all the time. I would not fight that guy. Matt Cook, to me, is the one that would probably scare me the most, especially with his cheap shots and stuff. So, I don't know. It's interesting. But Scott Stevens, who is the scariest, if you don't take any of my advice, who is the actual scariest? Probably Link Gates. And Scott Stevens is there, too. Like, that guy, man, if he's mad, But, yeah. So, I don't know. And then the greatest goaltender of all time... Not Marty Brodeur. I'm glad he's not winning that. Terry Sawchuk, underrated. I still kind of lean toward Terry Sawchuk, but people have kind of been swaying me toward Dominic Hasek. They have been. That guy's records, and I don't even know if it's records, but just that stretch he had in Buffalo, and I know he could have bigger pads, and I know it was during the, you know, clutch and grab era where scoring was less, but still, Dominic Hasek during that time was just so dominant. Like, I don't know. I feel like I lean towards Sawchuk still, but man, Hasek, yeah, nuts. And Patrick Waugh, like, there's something to be said about Patrick Waugh too. So yeah, do I mind that people say Patrick Waugh is the best goaltender of all time? Not at all. Like, that's a legitimate stance to take, absolutely. And so, yeah. But that's all my polls. So yeah, that's a really long video as well. So I went through them all, and yeah, that's what I think of all this. Obviously, you think differently in a lot of cases, but yeah. Hopefully I didn't anger too many people here. I probably did. Maybe not. Who knows? This is such a long video. How long is this? Over an hour? Oh, man. Who's going to watch this? I don't know. Hopefully more people than most of my videos. I don't know. We'll see, but anyway.